What's up, everybody? Welcome back to SkillSharp The Podcast. We're two entertainment recruiters with a combined 30 years of recruiting in the highly competitive entertainment industry. I'm Todd Nakasone, and my esteemed co-host.
Brian Wright, and we're here to talk to you about accessing the hidden job market. Well, as a recruiter, if I got a new job that I hadn't worked on before, every initial conversation, I was almost taking it as a learning for me too. Because once you start talking to a qualified candidate, yeah, you're trying to assess whether they're the best fit, but I'm learning a ton from them on how our job relates to an industry standard of their job, right? And the 10th conversation, I'm screening way better than I did in the very first. So back to reps.
Yeah, it goes both ways, right?
Yeah, it does.
Because with each conversation, you're expanding your network. Or you could think of it as, building reps, practice.
Period. Yeah, no, I like that as a very positive foundation. So back to your point, what your boss said about not letting the volume get to you. You almost have to prepare yourself that and listen, for athletes, it's the key is like the process is the training, and you got to love the process, not just the games. You know what I mean? Not just the spoils or, when you get to the end of it.
I did talk to a candidate who said that same thing where, yeah, I've applied to 100 jobs and, thank you for calling me. I really don't get a lot of callbacks. And I said, well, hey, the good news is you applied to that many jobs.
Hmm.
You're halfway there. Well, I don't halfway, but you're on your way to getting more and more interviews. And the more you interview, the more you practice. So I kind of had to turn that negativity into a positive. Every idea didn't come with instant success. I'm sure there's so many times. Well, you hear from entrepreneurs that, hey, this is my third company and well, hopefully this one will hit. But they're constantly iterating.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's scientific method applied to regular things, to where failure is a part of the success matrix. It's what you want. So let me ask you this. So again, I heard a recruiter say that the hidden job market is also characterized by when a company comes across a top candidate, they'll make they'll create a job for them. Now that's obviously a rare situation, but how much do you feel like that comes into play when you meet a top candidate and there isn't an opening, but you may know of a company that would really like them?
It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. I recently brought somebody on board to our company who worked for a competitor, and he didn't actually get the first job that he was interested in. I said, hold on. Let me share your resume with the president of another division.
Mm,
Now, it took a while for those conversations to happen because they had to get budget and what have you. But because he was such I would say, perfect fit coming from a competitor, they wanted to keep these conversations going.
hmm.
And he eventually got hired. There's also another, I noticed in another company that uh, to review contracts took a while because they didn't have an employment attorney on board. So when I remember when all the studios were laying off because of all the streaming services were starting to pull back on employees and hiring and what have you. So this person from a studio who was an employment attorney applied for another job, like just basically legal counsel for our company. So I said to the CHRO, I go, hey, you might want to talk to this person because uh, I didn't say that. I noticed it took a while for you guys to review contracts, but this person can actually uh, do a lot more than just review contracts, but look at employment law.
Mhm.
Because at the time, they actually sent it to a retained law firm, all the cases. So they actually hired her. I mean, she was part of the studio system, and we're an entertainment company. But yeah,
So I, number one, great example of how you as an employee thinking about the company put them in a situation of saving could be, well, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But think about it, that's like an impact that you made. So I mean yeah, that's a great example. Um what would you like, we like, obviously someone search hidden job market and there will be recommendations on what someone would do. Let's take it a step further. On each of those topics, how can somebody stand out and improve in the process of networking events?
yeah. One of the things about the great thing about LinkedIn is that you can go in and see what companies are going to be at these particular events. Let's say it's a industry conference or uh, a networking event, uh, meetup, and just see who. Well, first put your dream company list together, right? Something that aligns with your values and the roles that you want to achieve, and then start attending those events. But have your elevator pitch ready. But like I said too, if there's something that you can add to the conversation that's meaningful, those types of conversations will get you noticed.
Hmm. Absolutely. But I love the thought of having a target list. Have your list of companies that, yeah, you're going to leverage LinkedIn to do research on them. But once you have your short list, now you're going directly to their site and getting even more information and discovering some of the messaging that they want you to find. And you never know. There could be more postings on their site that they haven't listed more broadly that you may be a good fit for.
Yeah, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is create your own set of board of directors to manage your search. And it could be a lot of times former bosses or peers in a different department, and ask them point blank over a coffee, say, hey, I'm in the midst of a transition in my career. I'd love to be able to share with you thoughts about my resume. Can you take a look at it? Because if you ask for a job from somebody, they're going to say, oh my God, yeah, they're going to run. Right. So you ask for help. So, being able to rely on these individuals to kind of share your blind spots,
Mm,
um, or encourage you to maybe take a training to be a better fit on a particular job, but having those honest conversations with 4 or 5 people that you trust, that can share with you tips, and then they will be your advocate, right? Once they review your resume, you implement those changes on your resume, and then if there's a position that opens up at their company or they hear of something, maybe they get hit up by a headhunt. They may say, "Hey, I'm not right for this job, but the person that I'm working with or I've worked with in the past, they could be a good fit. So I'll refer
mhm.
you to them." And that just multiplies your voice
People
by,
sometimes think doing SWOT, where you're looking at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Anytime they identify weaknesses or threats, it's a weakness of them overall. And knowing these things, going into a search or going into battle, that's a strength. Knowing where you have to lean a little bit more on your elevator pitch because they may ask you about X, Y, and Z, and you want to make sure, okay, I remember those two experiences where I've done really well in those areas. So you need to be able to include that. That's that customization that is so critical as you're talking to different people or you're in different circles of people networking.
I like I think you're a very good networker because you,
Look, I'm like,
what?
I don't know.
No, I think you are
Anyway,
because
look, I'm like, I'm doing the same weakness thing, but I appreciate you.
well, why I say that is because you're not afraid to have conversations with people, and you're always kind of I think you naturally are a giving person, and that makes people want to gravitate to you.
Appreciate you, man. Listen, back at you.
But what do you do to actually get those conversations started? What's in your head?
That's a good question. I mean, I think as initially a recruiter, there's maybe even axis of three things. One, you're just on the human side wanting to hear somebody's story. That may be just number one. Number two, maybe do we have some form of connection from the standpoint of the functional area that I'm recruiting for? And then third would be you had brought this up about the competitor just being a good fit for somewhere in your company. So I think the third is you're starting to look from a company standpoint. Does somebody match the culture, the environment? You know, would they jive well into the business? Without me representing companies directly, I mean, I'm also thinking about, wow, I really like what you're doing. And I immediately think of collaboration points. Now, it may not be with me because I might not be the skilled person for that, but that's where the networking comes in. Because I'm thinking, I just heard of whether it be a company, a function, project, or an individual that shares something about those stories. So I don't know. I think I appreciate the thought of me being good at networking, but I think I'm more of a curious problem solver, period. And whether that be the challenge of solving someone's initial issue or a longer term, it starts with the story and listening, being a good listener. So, I mean, now what I will tell you though is there is a difference or an additive to being a great networker is someone that's also keyed into opportunities. And that's where I will give you a lion's share of credit and at a mastery level of because of your network and people in different roles that are actively working on projects or looking to do something or filling certain positions. When you network or you're recruiting, you're able to link people to active opportunities. Now that's going to make your job very difficult because they always used to say when you're good at your job, all the work's going to come to you like a magnet. So that means you're probably dealing with even more people that want to have the conversation with you, but they get the energy and sense that it's going to equal into some opportunity. So just kudos back to you on recognizing. I say in my family, I was the person that didn't have a specific talent, but to recognize other people's talents. So I got into recruiting primarily because I always was able to see other people's skill sets and as best as I could their intentions and wanted to make an impact there. But anyway,
So you're
um,
saying you used your superpower,
ab-
right?
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. I mean, even from a sports standpoint, I will tell you, I played football through college, so it was one of those things to where I don't think when I reflect on it, it wasn't athletic ability necessarily that made me successful at what I was doing. It was my thought process. And so how can I beat somebody in that moment versus me being able to physically beat them ongoing, kind of like the NBA, like through a 7 game series. no, 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 how can I beat you in the moment for that play? And then, okay, we have to come back for the next play. And then, oh my gosh, I have to figure out how to beat you again for that next play. And then you just have to do that over and over. And it's so funny. Marshawn Lynch just says, how does someone feel when you running over their face over and over and over again? They start to rethink their business opportunities. No,
Yeah.
they're like, I don't know if I want to do this all day long. But back to thought process versus athleticism, I always used to say that's what athletes, great athletes, don't get credit for. If someone has an advanced thought process that they can, you know, be in a situation and direct their body to move, it's not animal instinct. I always hated that reference or that connection. This is thought process that allows you to react in a situation. And honestly, through practice and muscle memory, you're able to get there. But equating that whole process back to professional work, it's the same thing. If you're great at the monthly close in accounting and you've had to deal with it in so many different aspects and in supporting different divisions and business cycles and downturns and upturns, well, guess what? Your muscle memory in dealing with different closes is going to be at a higher level. Your thought process is going to be at a higher level. So equating athletics to professional work is a passion of mine because I think it absolutely connects. But what are your thoughts on that?
Oh no, 100%. You know, uh, the great Larry Bird would say after he got done shooting, 1,000 shots, he's thinking, man, I bet Magic is shooting 1,200.
Mm.
I got to get back in the gym, shoot 500 more.
Mm-hmm.
You think that stuff comes naturally. I'm sure there's a lot natural talent that Larry Bird had, but he's in the gym. He's doing those reps. It's about practice.
It's about practice, not the game. It's about practice.
Hey, Magic Johnson used to say, uh, the practices when he was with the Lakers winning championships, practice was harder than the games.
Hmm. Yeah, especially them running. You're so right. The whole Showtime thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so there were like, all those fancy passes and fast breaks. There's a lot of practice involved. It's
Hmm.
like he was the choreographer of the fast break, but they're running that how many times in practice?
So do you think that there is a myth of the hidden job market? And how important is the hidden job market if it does exist?
Yeah, to find the hidden job market, I think goes back to a lot of reps, right? How many times did I get a job for somebody that it wasn't posted and it was created? Not very often.
Mhm. So people
I
don't
bring
know.
up those stories, but it doesn't happen all that often.
And
So
how many referrals like
a lot of referrals.
get hired?
Yep.
So that's a top process for the hidden job market. What about networking events?
I've gotten two positions because of networking. I went to an industry event and I was actually one of the companies representing at that particular job fair. So I knew somebody I actually used to work with somebody at a different table, different company. So I wanted to say hi, a bunch of niceties. And my third question was, after how you doing and how you enjoying the show, the job fair. My third question was, hey, so do you have any positions for me? And you know what? She said, actually, we are actually hiring another person.
Come on, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So, yeah, it happens quite a bit. My current company, I got in through referral.
It sounds like to me, because if I were even to point to diversity And you know how DEI got this scarlet letter of DEI hires. I mean, in all my years of recruiting, as much as I championed those functions, even the best person that I know in the area was in the hundreds of placements, which is phenomenal. But it's not in the thousands. And I'm not saying for that one person, but I'm just saying as the effort in general, these are rare occurrences of people getting hired. So referrals, I think conversions where people get to see your work and you kind of ease into the role. I think that's probably a very high percentage of what the hidden job market is touting. But all the other areas, I mean, it's fairly rare to be able to land a job through them, even though people covet them.
Yeah, it's fairly rare. Uh, I actually worked very hard at networking or going to different events, just meeting as many people as I could. Just because when I was ready for a change myself, I wanted to have that network already ready. So finding a job when you already have a job, to your point, is key.
Hmm.
But that takes a lot of work, right? You gotta be ready for the next position or, have your target list of companies already set and you're already trying to connect to them on LinkedIn and going to their different uh, industry events. Um, you're only adding to your network and you're expanding it.
I think you have to find a way of weaving your current work and purpose and aligning it with the company's purpose to a certain extent to be able to get to events or join industry organizations or professional organizations and get time from your work to be able to go do that. If the company feels like you're committed to that and that's going to benefit them, they'll allow you to do that. So that's a way of kind of building your brand through your current work. And that would then put you in position to, like you're saying, to have the network ready when it comes time for you to make a move. You've already put in the work.
Yeah, look at Shark Tank, right?
Mm.
People looking for investors for their companies or startups or whatever it might be. But you don't get on that show without, practicing your pitch, having that network to get on that show. How many investors do you need to go to before you get that actually initial investment? I mean, it could be hundreds, right? But it's practice.
It's a parallel path of getting the word out broader, but ensuring that your message is practiced and ready. So it's opportunity meets preparation meets opportunity.
And then I'd rather be lucky than good.
Eh,
You make your own luck.
Hey, get acquired, not hired.
Get acquired.
Hey, well, and a closing point to that is, you know, uh, my my father, but other people used to say, it's not who you know, but it's who knows you and what they will say about you when you're not in the room. Will your name even come up? And oftentimes it has to be related to more than just, hey, I met a great person, or I got someone's card, or I saw their resume. But it's like, I know them to be someone that will demonstrate X, Y, and Z. I can validate that they're good at this, or they're knowledgeable of this or that. I think you stated this before. And matter of fact, our most recent one is about the relationship with recruiters
Mm.
because you want that person, like you had said it so perfectly, you don't want to be one of 250 applicants. You want to be one of one. So, and then we also question whether people want to talk to recruiters when they don't need us. But it is all about building a relationship so when they're not around, we'll think of them So I think where we're ending up is that there is value to accessing the hidden job market, but whether it's employee referrals, networking, managing your relationship with recruiters, or you're already an employee and you're looking for internal advancement, it all boils down to your preparation for the opportunity. If you're not ready, the hidden job market is kind of not a thing and it's not as important. But if you're prepared for it, this is where preparation can meet opportunity. You said this several times, and I want to leave people with this, is that as a candidate, if you're feeling pressed that the public job market isn't offering you what you need, yes, you want access to the hidden job market, but it's also about ensuring that you're improving how you're engaging with everybody. And so we talk about businesses developing customer relationship management systems where they're tracking all communication so they can improve upon how they're engaging different companies and what they may be looking for, or different customers and what they may be looking for. Candidates also need to take that care in how you're engaging all the different aspects of the hidden job market and make sure you're constantly improving in order to truly take advantage of all that it has to offer.
So in the next episode, we're going to talk about the value of creating your own CRM, your personal CRM, to represent your brand as the most hireable candidate. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And always remember to stay sharp.